Helpful for life.
Regardless of how well you treat your blade, you're going to need to sharpen it from time to time. As you can see in these two pictures from cooksillustrated.com, this is a knife under a microscope. On the left, you'll see a knife that is sharp, and on the right, you'll see one that's dull. You can imagine why the one on the left cuts a little better than the one on the right. Now, how often you're going to need to sharpen your knife varies based on a number of factors. One, of course, is how good of a knife is it? And then, of course, there's things like what are you cutting on? How hard are you being when you're handling the knife and cleaning the knife? What are you cutting? Among other things. Now, if you've ever used a sharp knife before, you've felt the magnificent glory. And once you've gone to the sharp side, as soon as you start using a dull knife, you'll realize it. But if you want to do a test on how sharp a knife actually is, there's two popular methods. There's the tomato test and the paper test. So with the tomato test, you're going to grab your tomato, which I don't have one here, but then you're going to take your knife and you're just going to lightly cut into that tomato. And if your knife easily pierces that skin and gets a nice smooth cut, then you know you got a sharp knife. If it struggles or it feels rough or isn't cutting well or it just doesn't penetrate the skin at all, you need to sharpen that bad boy. Another method is the paper method. So you can just get a regular piece of printer paper or maybe some magazine paper or whatever and just take your knife and try and cut through it. Now, you can see this knife didn't do a very good job. But sometimes you'll be able to cut a little bit, but you'll feel resistance or maybe it drags a little. And if you feel those, and if it's not cutting clean through, then you know that knife probably needs sharpening, which this knife does. So when it comes down to it, how do you sharpen your knife? Well, one way is to have somebody else do it. If you just aren't really into this kind of thing or you don't want to work, that's a perfectly fine way to do it. Just go online and type in local knife sharpener or knife sharpener near me and you should be able to find something. If you're having trouble, maybe call up a local kitchen store or go to your local butcher and ask them where they get their knife sharpened. If you're lucky and you're nice, maybe they'll just sharpen your knife for you. The first method, which is pretty easy and straightforward to do, is a pull through. And this is also pretty repeatable. There's not a ton of variables here. Now with the pull through, there are two main kinds. There's the manual pull through and the electric pull through. And there are different variations you'll see of the manual pull through, but just to focus on the difference between manual and electric, the electric has these spinning discs on it made out of ceramic or some other hard material that will actually eat away at the metal, and it'll work a little faster and maybe a little better than a manual one will. Now, as you can guess, the manual one's gonna be pretty cheap compared to the electrical one, so you gotta decide if you wanna splurge a little bit to get the nicer sharpener. They should last you a long time, so I think it's a solid investment.